So may I just introduce our speaker here on the right side, who is the executive chairman of Armen, which is a European pioneer in GP stakes. He has over 30 years' experience in private equity and has been with Ardian since 1997, becoming the CEO in 2014. And they have in excess of $120 billion under management. Dominique Gaillard. Thank you, Monsieur Gaillard, for joining us. And someone who doesn't need an introduction, we've already met him once today, but he is indeed the chairman and managing director, both of SwanCap and of the LPEA. And right now, we're looking at scale. We're tackling this tough question for GP consolidation, the race for scale. Can I have a round of applause, please? Klaus.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. We were supposed to have also another party on the panel, but maybe as a sign of the times in this particular consolidation game, Cyril, the gentleman from Wendel, had to excuse himself due to a live transaction. So he's buying a GP as we speak. So that's interesting. And you know, there's been some reference to GP challenges, GP opportunities. You know, I referred earlier to a rising tide. We've had a wonderful run in private equity. The rising tide, raised all boats. Metaphorically, now you could say they also launched all forms of boats. So every wannabe PE player with some credentials managed to launch themselves in the last decade relatively smoothly. And famously last year, the CEO of Partners Group told conference that out of 11,000 GPs worldwide, he predicts in the foreseeable future, was it a decade, that there would only be 100 remaining. So as we pursue to consolidate all our target investment sectors, our own sector is perhaps also ripe. And with that, Dominique, you are an example of somebody who's, I believe, taking perhaps advantage of this opportunity. A relatively early mover. Maybe you could describe yourself in a few words more about, you know, why you launched the strategy and what it is and what the company is.
Well, thank you, Klaus. Maybe first to refer to the quotation of this guy from Partners Group. Before launching Armen 2 years ago, I was the president of France Invest, the French equivalent of LPEA. And what surprised me was that when I took my presidency, there were 312 members in France active in the PE, infrastructure, private debt world. When I left 3 years later, there were 440. So maybe there will be some consolidation, I'm sure there will be, but at the same time, you see in the emergence of many specialized players. Not only PE players, but so family offices deciding to do massively private equity. So I do not agree at all that there will be only 100 players, big players in 10 years from now. I think that the market is rejuvenated every time. So coming back to us, why we decided to launch this GP stake business 2 years ago, that's only 10 years after the US, because this has been a strategy that has been developed by very big players starting in 2012 in the US. We thought that our intuition was that in Europe, there was a need for people like us that will help transitioning the GPs from a classic model of a mono-strategy partnership to a multi-strategy platform. Historically, people were good in one vertical. Every 4 years, they were raising a fund twice the size of the previous funds. And for that, they didn't need neither cash nor experience in transitioning to a multi-strategy platform. Now, all these specialists, they recognize the need to become platform. Of course, because of the economy of scale, also because of the intimacy with the clients, because they see their LPs 3 times a year with 3 different products instead of 1 time every 4 years. So the intimacy is much bigger. There's a problematic also of trademark, of brand of these players. So this has been already in place with the very large GPs. You have seen in Europe that CVC, Bridgepoint, PAI, Kohler, all use the help of some of the big GP stakers over the last 2 or 3 years. But this is also arriving at the level of mid-cap GPs, which are the ones that we are targeting. I would say nearly none of them want to stay with only one strategy. So that's where we can help. We help in providing money to help them grow, mostly in cash in, to acquire some companies in the segments where they want to develop. And 10 years ago, there was nobody for sale. Today, there are a lot of small cap GPs which are for sale. So for anybody who wants to implement a buy and build strategy, there is this capacity to do so. They also expect from us that because we are former GPs, so we know the problems of a mid-cap GP encounters when he makes this move, so they need our experience to do so. On top of that, we have decided at Armen that we have now 20 people, and out of these 20 people, we have 5 investors relation sales person all over Europe and in the US and in Asia, who are helping us to fundraise our own funds, but we also make them available to the GPs so that it helps GPs to diversify their client base. And mid-cap GPs, very often, they are very domestic. The LP base is very domestic. So being able to help them to develop in Sweden, in Germany, in Spain, in terms of the basis of LPs, that's a big push for them.
So just sort of to describe a bit more than what you do, so then you buy these typically, or you invest really, you provide new capital mainly, I presume, into those GPs. You're typically a minority investor.
Always minority investor.
And then you aggregate these stakes in those GPs in a fund format where then investors can participate. So the curiosity for many of us is, A, we haven't really never thought about it, to be honest, and B, what are the sort of the key economics that attribute to you or to the fund by being an owner in a GP?
Well, indeed, to the contrary of Wendel, and Thierry Marie could have explained that in more detail, we always take minority position, always. Mostly in cash in to help these people to grow, sometimes in cash out because most of us, we have started in this career. Some of us have begun in this career a long time ago, and so some of the GPs, they are the first generation, they want to cash out and to be replaced by the next generation. So we can help also this transition of generation. But it's mostly cash in. So what we expect from them, first we are considering ourselves as a strategic partner, even though we have a minority position. And we expect from them that they grow, because we can speak later on valuation, but obviously we'll value more at the exit a GP who is managing 5 billion if when we enter into this equity, he was managing only 1 billion. So we expect them to grow, and we expect from them that they distribute every year some dividends, because we are promising to our own LPs some yield, like an infrastructure fund, 5 to 8%, that's our target. And we are benefiting from this profitability of the management fee. We are benefiting from an allocation of carried, either directly or indirectly, because some of the carried is staying at the level of the management company, so we benefit from it. And we also benefited from the GP commit. That is, most of the LPs now, there's more and more GP commit from the GPs, and part of it is taken by the management company. So being a shareholder in the management company, we also benefit from this stream of financial rewards.
Right. So in a way, you're sort of participating in the best of all worlds. You're participating in the fund performance, you're participating in the carry performance, and then sort of obviously, hopefully, some sort of business franchise value development as well.
Yeah. But maybe one word, we have a tremendous deal flow. So our intuition 2 years ago proved to be right, because in our actual deal flow, I think that most of the GPs that we are discussing with, they called us because they recognize that bringing somebody like us at their board, their equity, will help them to grow in this difficult environment. So that's a very strong element. And they require from us, we are never at their investment committee, never ever, but we're always at their strategic committee or advisory board or conseil de surveillance. And we meet them very regularly discussing all their corporate plans, making acquisitions, developing evergreen vehicles. Somebody was speaking earlier about continuation funds. Continuation funds is a big plus for us in terms of deal flow because you are a mid-cap GP, you want to establish a continuation fund of mono multi-asset of 500 million euro. The secondary players that are going to finance this continuation fund, they are asking the GP to have skin in the game at the level of 8, 9, 10%. So 500 million euro continuation fund, that's 50 million euro required from the GP. And most of the mid-cap GPs, they cannot allow to have that. So we bring money at the level of the GP so that the GP can manage to have this GP commit. So there are a lot of elements today converging with the need of a GP sector.
But you know, if you were to be devil's advocate, if there's a lot of opportunity out there, maybe there's a reason why people are so keen to sell, right? And because they might be afraid of this sort of Jurassic shakeout that the Partners Group CEO was kind of anticipating. Survival of the fittest is around the corner, and we better shore up our partnership or take some money off the table straight away. Are you not afraid that some of the investments you make in smaller GPs will be subject to, you know, to being crushed by the giants?
Well, of course, luckily there are some people who are ready to sell, otherwise Wendel will never make any acquisition. So that's cool for them, and there will be this consolidation. Of course, our job for us, when we select to accompany a GP, is to check their performances, historical performances, their business plan. We want to have an aggressive business plan for the reason I mentioned earlier. We want the AUM to grow. And a big part of our due diligence is to be sure that the GP, as it is today, will be even stronger thanks to the past performances and thanks to how they want to develop in 5 years from now. So because we are shareholders for 6, 7 years, it's a long process. So we check at the succession plans, we check at the ambience at the level of the GP. So everything that it's a people business. So we have to be sure that the GP that we are helping is going to be in good shape and will help him to be in good shape and growing in 5 years ahead.
Well, I guess by the very fact that you're investing into them and you know, gives them legs for a growth strategy, which you know, where they take the initiative in the competitive landscape, which is understood. So it's curious, as you said, maybe in America this business has been around for a decade or more, but here in Europe it's really taking off now, and interesting timing. You know, what are some of the dynamics that really make this the moment for you?
Well, as I was saying, most of people now, they see how the big players have developed multi-strategy policies. At Ardian, I think my former company, I think now they announced that they're following 16 strategies. So obviously the economy of scales are enormous. The capacity to grasp more clients, more client base in their funds is enormous. So the mid-cap players, they are following the same trend, that's for sure. Compared to the US players, we are so far the quasi-unique European player. Addressing, I mean, when CVC opens its equity to Dial, it's only a financial issue. They want to have the best price ever. So they don't care that the people of Dial are 6,000 kilometers away in New York and they've never seen them. When you are a mid-cap GP managing 1 billion, 1.5 billion, opening your equity is much more the heart of what you want to, I mean, it's very important for you. And so you want to discuss about all these issues, performances, succession plan, split of the equity, split of the carry. You want to do that with people that you have known for a long time, that you are confident with. So we try to establish Arman with local offices, with people like me who, in their own countries, have the intimacy with the GP base of their country. They know them. The GP trusts them. because I think in this segment of the market, that's really a critical element for us to sell to our GPs.
And so with that, so how do you go about valuing a GP?
Well, it's a tricky question in the sense that there is first, it's a recent market, so there is no guideline established by M&A banks, even though more and more M&A banks have established teams to cope with these GP stake transactions. And obviously, our base of valuation is a multiple of the EBITDA of the GP. In a nutshell, a GP managing more than 1 billion, thanks to the management fee, it should have an EBITDA of between 30 and 50% of the turnover. So it's quite profitable. And the bigger it is, the most profitable it is. So our basis for valuation will be a multiple of EBITDA. That being said, if there is some carried kept in the company, we also value as a sum of the part the discounted value of the carried that we are buying, that's for sure. But coming back to the multiple of EBITDA, we will not value the same way a buyout fund charging 2% on a commitment to its LP base compared to private debt funds where it's 65 basis points on the money drawn, obviously, because the P&L will not be the same at all. And most importantly, we will look at the length of the funds, so the visibility on the cash flow streams. An infrastructure fund of 15 years long will be more interesting than maybe a co-investment fund where after 6 years there is no management fee anymore. And we'll also look at the aggressivity of the business plan and the reality of the business plan, the credibility of the business plan, because obviously a GP growing at 30% per year growth CAGR in terms of AUM, we will value it more than a GP growing at 10% CAGR. So it's all of that we take into account. So there is no simple answer to your question.
And the money you put in that actually goes into the company or actually goes into the pockets of the founders, or both, do you make a requirement, or is there a driver that, there's a tendency for people to, raise ever-increasing size of funds? And with a slowdown in proceeds, some GP partners have found themselves a little bit stretched to satisfy the GP commitment in their next larger fund. Is that a dynamic that plays into your...
Clearly, we prefer that the money that we inject is in cash in the GP. Mm-hmm. But very often, we allow a portion of our investment in cash out for the managers. As far as they reinject, I don't know, 50, 65% of their net cash out as a GP commit in the future fund. So we want them, we are alongside them for a long time, so we want them to have skin in the game for the future funds that they are going to fundraise. So pure cash out without reinjection, we will allow that only for managing partners who are totally abandoning the company and then going to play golf 100% of their time.
And then, the big challenge of recent years has been sort of crystallization and exits, basically. So as a minority investor in a private company, we all know that can be challenging then to monetize. But you mentioned that there is one element of monetization, which is an ongoing potential dividend stream, which can de-risk the position perhaps. But then ultimately you'd also wish to see a realization, because perhaps unlike Wendel and a few others who are truly consolidating strategically in an evergreen way and building asset management companies for perpetual purposes, I guess, you are literally an investment fund and have your own deadlines ultimately. So how do you get out of the investments?
These questions, I'm sorry, but I have had probably 500 fundraising meetings over the last 2 years, and I have this question every single time. Because we are, as a minority player, the question of liquidity is really legitimate. I think that selling the investment that we have, we can sell them in 5 directions, 5 roads. There will be a secondary market, another GP staker taking over the stake that we have. There will be asset managers, quite happy to replace us and benefiting from the stream of dividends on a growing GP, an insurer, an asset manager. There could be some family offices being quite happy they love the GP and they want to take over our stake and to benefit from a kind of an intuitu-personnel relationship with the GP in person. And the last two roads are either the managers who needed our cash to develop 5 years ahead. Now, because of us, their GP is much richer. They can make a leverage recap and buy us back and become 100% owners of the GP at the exit. And we give them a right of first offer when we want to exit. And finally, if they want to sell, then we have tag-along and drag-along clauses, and so we sell with them. But we also decided that we'll offer liquidity to our own LPs at the portfolio level. You have this stream of dividends. We have copy-paste what the US players are doing. That we are planning to have a leverage recap of our portfolio in year 4. So there will be an exceptional dividend to our LPs of 30–40% of what they committed already. And finally, and it's coming back to continuation funds, in year 6, year 7, all the lands which are seen in our portfolio will be transferred to our continuation funds. We'll have a secondary player bidding for it, and the one winning the auction will have the obligation to buy back 100% or 0% or whatever percent the former LP wants to sell. So in year 6 and 7, we have guaranteed our LPs that there will be a total exit if they want to use it. So we have tried to compensate the fact that we cannot trigger a sale because we are minority investors by having this liquidity at 2 levels, the level of each of the lines and liquidity at the level of the portfolio.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our session. I think we owe Dominique Gaillard a good hand for turning up and sharing all this knowledge.